I'm Nomfanelo, and I'd like to welcome you to the top 40 movie soundtracks. So, I decided to do this series partly because I want to talk about both music and movies because I do love them both. Obviously, I want to get into movies and make movies and talk about movies, all that stuff. But I also do love music as well too as a listener. So with this, kind of gave me the chance to do so. Also, too, I was partly inspired because Apple Music, I'm sure as you guys are aware of, they put out their top 100 albums list of all time, and that got a lot of negative reception. So so those kind of partly inspired me to do this series. So it's going to be in four parts. So this is will be part one. So before I start that, so I do want to mention like my criteria and eligibility. So in terms of eligibility, it I have to see the movie first off, and also too I had to listen to the soundtrack. And in terms of how my rankings go, so I didn't do like a score system, but essentially I rated based off the quality of the music and the replay value. So that's essentially my criteria. So originally I was going to do like a top 100, but that was tricky for me to do because with a lot of the soundtrack albums out there, like I've liked a few of the songs, not as a whole. But I do in the future would like to do a series where I do my top 100 songs for movies of all time, however, whatever it's going to be called. I want to do that in the future. That will be more fun, and that will definitely have 100 entries for that one. So let's get started. 40 is Babs by various artists. So, um, for my podcast, Rediscovered Movies, I did talk about this movie. Um, so you could check that out there. And essentially, yeah, I do. I still like the movie. I've seen it, growing up, and I still like it to this day. And with the soundtrack itself, I liked how it really is a representation of the music of the time, particularly like with the R&B sound and house music. For me, the tracks that stand out is "Forever" by Damage because that one is a really critical song as it represents Niecy and her boyfriend's relationship. Plus, it's a nice slow R&B jam that has those romantic feels to it. And other ones that stood out to me was "A Good Life" by Inner City because that's played when Niecy and Mickey are shopping. That's a nice, fun, upbeat house song. And "No One But You" by Veronica and Craig Mack. That's played during the opening credits. That's a nice, fun song to jam to. So, a critique I have about the album itself is that it's not widely accessible if you go to any streaming services. YouTube is the best option for this, unless if you want to find it on physical media and all that stuff. But I think, yeah, like overall, like I enjoyed the songs of this album, and it's a good representation of the '90s at that time.
I laid my sword in the sand. I made my peace with man.
9, The Harder They Fall by various artists. So it's been a while since I've seen this movie on Netflix, but from my recollection, it reminded me a lot of the 1993 movie Posse because like that because both movies are westerns with predominantly African American cast, and the soundtracks for both movies feature a lot of hip hop sounds, and features a lot of black artists with the tracks. And yeah, for me, like with this film in particular, the movie itself was okay, was entertaining at times, but for me, yeah, the soundtrack stood out, and because of the because it with the hip hop influence and some soul and R&B music here and there. Tracks that stood out for me was "Guns Go Bang" by Kid Cudi and Jay Z. I loved the use of the orchestra or symphony. I can't music that's played during the opening credits, and also too I liked "Ain't No Better Love" by Seal, and I haven't listened to Seal in quite some time. It was nice to hear him on the soundtrack, and I guess apparently I learned at the time, I guess on Spotify when they have like the enhanced preview, in the no the enhanced playlist of the album. I think in the notes mentions that Seal, I guess, is close with the director. So yeah, it was great to listen to a Seal song in quite some time. Eight, School of Rock by various artists. So yeah, I love this movie, School of Rock. Jack Black is the best, and Richard Linklater did a great job with the movie as a director and all that stuff. And I loved it with the soundtrack. It really pays homage to rock music, particularly like the classic rock music from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It does have some of like the 2000s sounds to it as well too, but it's really like a homage to the classic rock sound, just like how like Huey is throughout the movie when he tries to teach the rock music to the class. Um, and it was nice. I was able to find the soundtrack on Apple Music recently because otherwise I would have had to rely on YouTube and all that stuff. And songs, yeah, that stood out to me was the titular song by the cast. And if you look at the music video for this, it's quite funny because of Jack Black has this has a wig. You can clearly tell it's a wig in that one. And another one that stood out for me was "It's a Long Way to the Top," which I believe it's a cover of an AC/DC song that is used during the closing credits, and that was a nice sequence to watch in the film as well too. So yeah, loved the School of Rock and all that stuff for this album. Seven, Coming to America by various artists. I remember growing up, had the cassette player. I remember playing the soundtrack for this one a lot at the time. I would say the titular song by the System for me stands out. It still does to this day because very catchy, and it acts as like the theme of the film. And the film itself is great. It's a classic Eddie Murphy movie, and just loved watching his character's journey like throughout the film, and with him like becoming a prince or a king, I can't remember, and ending up with the girl of his choice at the end, which was great as well too. And as a whole, loved, yeah, essentially represented like the pop R&B sound at the time with the mix of the upbeat and the slow beat songs. Number 36, Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mixtape Volume 1 by various artists. Yeah, this one has a lot of jukebox songs, which for me is fine as long as they have a purpose than just to, be there for the sake of, essentially. But yeah, this one has a lot of throwback songs, ranging from like 60s and 70s, and it shows really James Gunn. Like, I'm sure he's on that list, like with Quentin Tarantino, like and Baz Luhrmann. I'm sure there's others that really do a good job at curating songs for their movies. And I really liked, yeah, I Want You Back by Jackson 5. That one was nice to watch. When Baby Groot was dancing towards the end. Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, obviously during the opening credits with Peter Quill. Yeah, that one was fun as well too. And of course, Hooked on a Feeling by Blue Swede. Remember at the time when this movie came out, they played that song like crazy in the trailers and all that stuff. And I did not get tired of that song at the time. So, yeah, great job, James Gunn and Co. for this soundtrack. 35, Charlie's Angels, the 2000s movie by various artists. So, yeah, like growing up in the 2000s, I really dug this movie, still does. Even though it's cheesy at times, I still have fun with it. And I loved, yeah, like it's a good action comedy movie, like with female leads that are capable at defeating their enemies and all that stuff. The soundtrack itself, yeah, I dug. It's a good like pop slash rock album. So it has songs that are from like throwbacks, such as Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back, and then we have Aerosmith with Angel's Eye, and of course the big song Independent Women by Destiny's Child. Yeah, that's an anthem. Like, and that really fits like with not just the context of the movie itself, but outside of that as well too. In a way, it's a good anthem for women and the females out there. So yeah, good job with the album here. Number 34, Congo by Jerry Goldsmith. So, Jerry Goldsmith, I would say, is on my list of one of my favorite composer. I always loved, like, just based on the ones that I've heard, does a good job, like, with doing the adventure type sound with his like with for example with Star Trek. I can't remember which Star Trek one of the older ones. Also with the Mummy, with the 90s version. So I went with this album because I loved the use of like the, you could say like the tribal music, and it has like a some South African influence, particularly with his collaboration with Labo M. And the Spirit of Africa, that track with Label M, for me is a standout because it really like gets you into like the mood of the film, because that's obviously played during opening credits and with the motifs throughout the film as the characters are on their journey, and of course during the end credits as well too. So yeah, like dug this album. 3, Sister Act by various artists. So it's been a while since I've last seen the movie, but I love, yeah, this one's like a feel good movie, even though like with Whoopi Goldberg's character essentially has to be like undercover, from the gangsters and all that stuff. But like the songs itself is a feel good to it, and it has that nice like retro sound to it, like with the song "Rescue Me" by Fun Telebas, and then "Just a Touch of Your Love" by CC Music Factory, and also too like with the choir music, of course, with the "Hail Holy Queen" and "I Will Follow Him," and that, if you look at the album, is credited by Dolores and the Sisters, which is cute. So yeah, like this one, yeah, it's like catchy. Like these argue very show tunes, because obviously it got adapted into a Broadway musical, which I have not seen, but I hear it's great. So yeah, it's an enjoyable album, and I recommend this one to it. Number 32, Mean Girls by various artists. So yeah, this one, yeah, kind of represents the type of music that I listened to like as a teen back in the day. Loved, yeah, like the pop rock sound to it. Milkshake by Khalees. That song was everywhere during that time, and if you guys grew up during that time, you'll obviously know what I'm talking about. And but for me, like the songs that stood out, the Mathlete rap song is hilarious, and Overdrive by Katie Rose. I enjoy that track as well. So yeah, like I just love, yeah, this album like represent the times, like with the music I was listening to at the time, and of course the movie is great as well too. It's fantastic. I have not seen the musical with the Broadway version, nor the recent movie musical adaptation. So there is that. One, Bad Boys by various artists. So I would say out of like the entries of the franchise, I would say the first one obviously is my favorite, because I love, yeah, the whole grounded approach. So I talked about this movie in a recent movies I love video, which you could check out. But yeah, I loved, obviously the score by Mark Mancina is fantastic, especially with the theme and the songs I enjoy as well too. I would say the standout for me is "Shy Guy" by Diana King, because that's very catchy. It kind of has a bit of a like a reggae tune to it, but yeah, it's a good throwback with that one, and obviously represents the times with that soundtrack. So that is the end of part one. So in the description, I will link where you could listen to the albums through YouTube or YouTube music. And stay tuned for part two, where I'll be talking about entries from 31 to, no, sorry, from 30 to 21. So, and you can find the link to my socials in the description and all that stuff. And also, too, you could support me on Buy Me a Coffee. That all that's in the description. And I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you in part two.